All right, so now let's take our newfound skills of factoring and see if we can solve this quadratic. So we've got it in standard form. That just means the x squared term comes first, and then the linear term or the plain x term, and then the standard constant term. So we're going to set it up. We know the 2x squared goes in the top left box of our 2 by 2, and the constant term we're going to put in the bottom right hand box. Now we need to find our magic pair, and if you remember, the magic pair is the number that gives us a product, or the two numbers that give us a product of a times c. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us negative 30. That's 2 times negative 15. And two numbers that add or combine together to give us a negative 7. So we need to first think about the numbers that multiply to give us negative 30. So let's walk through those. It could be negative 1 and 30, or 1 and negative 30, negative 2 and 15, or 2 and negative 15, negative 3 and 10, or 3 and negative 10, negative 5 and 6, or 5 and negative 6. Now, all of those are ways that we could get the two numbers to multiply to give us negative 30. But there's only one of those pairs that is going to give us a product of negative 30 and a sum of negative 7. And that's what we want. So it's not going to be this one. It's not going to be 1 and negative 30, because we combine those to get negative 29. These would give us positive 13. These would give us negative 13. This pair would give us positive 7. This is our pair that gives us a combined sum of negative 7. So that's going to be the magic pair that we use. We're going to break negative 7 down into two terms, a 3x and a minus 10x. And it doesn't matter which I put in either box. I can put the 3x here and the negative 10x here, or I could do it the other way. Either one of those is fine. Now I'm going to look at my 2 by 2, and I'm just going to look rows and columns and see what they have in common. So if I look at this first column, what do these two terms have in common? Well, the numbers don't have any greatest common factor, but they do both have an x in them. So that's going to be our common factor. Then we're going to look at the second column and think, what do these two have in common? They both have a negative sign, and both 10 and 15 are divisible by 5. So they both have a 5 in common. Then we're going to look at our rows, and we're going to think, okay, what is this row? What do these two terms in this row have in common? 2 and 10 both have a 2 in common, and they both have an x in common. And then 3x and 15, what do those two terms have in common? They both share a 3. They don't have a negative in common, so it's just we're going to bring down a positive 3. So now what I've done is I've factored that quadratic into its two factors. 2x plus 3 is 1, and x minus 5 is the other. And I could go back and I could check to multiply to make sure that's right. 2x squared plus 3x minus 15x minus 10x minus 15. That's good. Now, I know that I'm multiplying two numbers. I'm multiplying this term and this term. And when I multiply those terms, I want to know what gives me a product of 0. So one of two things could be true. Either 2x plus 3 has to be equal to 0, or x minus 5 has to be equal to 0. Because when I multiply two numbers and get a product of 0, at least one of the numbers has to be 0. So go back to your linear algebra, just solving an equation in one variable. How would I solve this linear equation? Well, we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. 2x equals negative 3. Or we're going to divide both sides by 2. One of my solutions would be negative 3/2. Or we're going to add 5 to both sides. My other solution would be x equals 5. And there you've got the two solutions to this quadratic equation, x equals 5 and x equals negative 3/2. Hope this was helpful.